Well, do you believe in miracles? Let me tell you a couple things. A man in a coma for 6 months suddenly wakes up after he sees Jesus in his dreams. Another situation, a boat's gas tank is basically on fumes, but it runs another hour after its passengers pray for God's help to get them safely home. A mass murderer, one of the most notorious mass murderers, finds God in prison. Are these miracles or are they divine intervention? Well, my next guest says miracles are happening every day to everyday people, and he's here to actually be an example of that miracle. Daniel Fazzina has written the book called Divine Intervention, Amazing True Stories of God's Miracles. Today, here's the book here. Here we got it? Okay. Daniel, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure, Lauren.
Let's start with your miracle, first of all. Let me just get that out of the way, because I didn't really know about that until this morning. You brought the X-rays here.
Yes, I actually had two miracles. I was raised in the Lutheran tradition, and I made my own decision to follow Jesus at 15. And from that time, my faith really grew. And I had two amazing miracles that happened that have to do with healing. And the first was when I was 16. I started developing back pain. I went to the chiropractor to get it checked out, and they said I had a torn cartilage ring, and the disc was bulging out, pressing against the nerve. I went to therapy for a number of years. Nothing was really helping. I stopped therapy after a few years, figured I'd have to live with the pain the rest of my life. I had pain every day, but whether I was sitting or standing. In 2001, I went on a men's retreat with some guys from church, and they dedicated this time in a Saturday afternoon to prayer for physical healing. We're on Montauk Manor, all the way out east on Long Island. They said, if you have any issues, we're going to pray to Jesus to heal us. And I got online to go to the front of the room to get prayed for. My friend Dave was next to me. He said, Daniel, what are you going to ask for prayer for? And I said, my back, because I've had this problem all these years. And right as I said that, Lauren, the pain disappeared. I was twisting and shaking, and it was gone. And I believe that God chose that moment so I would know it was him and not doctors or therapy. And I'm not against doctors. I love doctors. My wife is a doctor. But that was the first miracle. So I've been healed of that since 2001. And then in 2002, I had another dramatic situation come into my life where I was experiencing strange sensations in my chest. I went to get that checked out, and long and short of it was they took a scan, and if you can see this scan here, they found a massive tumor in my chest. This is my chest cavity. You can see there's two black spots. The top one is the massive tumor. The bottom one is my heart. And I was told I had lymphatic cancer, and that I could very well be dead within a matter of weeks to a couple of months at the most. They weren't sure if therapy would shrink the tumor. They were hoping it would. I had a lot of people pray over me. I had 6 rounds of chemotherapy, a lot of different alternative therapies as well, like intravenous vitamins and minerals. The tumor was so large it was crushing my pulmonary artery, and I was actually suffocating to death. And there was a point when I was in my hospital bed, I was a totally broken man, and I said, God, you know what? I know I'm your child. If you want to take me, I'll go with you. But if you want to let me live, I'll just do my best to share with the world your power and your healing and your love. And they were going to take a scan halfway through at the 3-month mark. They were hoping the tumor would have responded and be smaller. And when they took the 3-month mark scan, which is the halfway point, it came back completely negative. You can notice there's only one black spot now in my heart. That's my heart. The tumor is gone. No more cancer in my body.
Why did they not remove the cancer surgically? Why wasn't that an option?
The type of cancer it was B-cell lymphoma, and they said that it was inoperable because if they operated it would spread.
I see. It was like a flesh-eating virus, a kind of a flesh-spreading virus.
Yeah.
You have a radio show.
Yes.
And people call in, or you find people who have had some kind of miracle happen.
Yes.
First of all, what are some of these stories? I mean,
well,
where do you find these stories?
Interestingly, in my book, Divine Intervention, Amazing True Stories of God's Miracles Today, Volume 1, there are 33 different people in the book that I interviewed, and I would say about 31 or 30 of them were people I already knew, that I was familiar with their stories. They were friends, family, co-workers, church members, and it was interesting because when I returned to work after the healing of the cancer, people would be incredulous when I told them the story of what I went through, and there's a lot more to it than what I shared here, obviously, and I said, if you think what I went through is amazing, you should hear about my friends' stories, because I know 2 people who've been healed of AIDS. I mean, God
AIDS.
AIDS, yes. They
I
were
mean,
wasting
are
away,
these
dying.
documented? I mean, has medical science actually documented that someone's been healed of AIDS?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Really?
and my one friend, I already knew him. I knew his character. He was a church member, a friend of mine. Another good friend I know, he was shot in the head, point-blank range. The bullet went in, bridge of the nose, somehow missed his brain, ended up in the back of his neck. He made a full recovery. He's serving God now. He had the bullet in his neck from '94 until just last year. They took it out finally. And the doctors who took the scans were amazed. They couldn't figure out how it got there without leaving a trail through his brain. My friend that you mentioned who was in the coma, he was a guy I went to Bible study with, and I saw him, I knew him before the book, and he had a speech impediment, and he had a massive scar on his chest. I said, what is that? It's from his trach, because he was in a coma for 6 months after his jet ski accident. And he shared with me his story about how, he didn't even believe in God, and Jesus appeared to him in the coma and touched his hand, and that's when he woke up in the hospital after 6 months. And it took him a year to recover with, occupational therapy and physical therapy. But now he's fine. He can walk. He can talk. He drives. He has a job. Doctors thought he was going to be dead or a vegetable.
I'm going to ask the same question of Dr. Chauncey Crandall, who's coming up in a little bit, because you and I both know him. He was the doctor who prayed his patient.
I don't think he knows me, but I know him.
Well, you're right. But one of the questions I wanted to ask him is that, are these real miracles, or are they just things that medical science hasn't figured it out yet? I mean, there's just a lot of stuff we don't know yet about medicine, about science, about a lot of things, about the human body. And so is it possible that the things that, we think are miracles perhaps are just things that we just don't understand yet?
It's possible. I mean, it depends on your perspective, because it's funny, because some of the doctors did not think what I went through was a miracle at all. And then there were others, like the cardiologist, who read my original echocardiogram. He had never met me before, but he remembered my case, and he made it a test case and showed it to his students. I went back to him a year later, and he remembered me, and he said, not only is it amazing that it's gone, but it didn't leave any scar tissue behind. Normally, he said, when tumors shrink, they leave scar tissue. Mine was clean. But my oncologist, he didn't believe in miracles, and I said, well, you don't believe in miracles? He said, no. And then he corrected himself. He said, well, the only miracle I believe in is having a healthy baby. That was it for him. So it really depends on your perspective.
It's very interesting. In terms of miracles, though, and we're going to be talking with a gentleman whose miracle the Vatican investigated and then thought it was a verifiable miracle, and they beatified an English cleric because of it. But if it's a miracle, why do miracles then happen to some people and not to others? Like my brother died of cancer, and there are prayers for him for healing, and yet it didn't happen. So why is it that some miracles happen and then others don't?
That is a great question, and I wish I had an answer for that. The only thing I know is that God is real and he loves us, and sometimes he uses tragedy to do works in us and to bring about good. The Bible says that what the devil meant for evil, God can turn around and use for good. And one of the scriptures that I really held on to when I was going through my illness was Romans 8:28. It says that all things work together for the good of those who love God and who are called according to his purpose. It doesn't say that everything that happens will be good, but it works together